I think one of the biggest surprises, like I mentioned last week, is the fact that they made me really like Yuno as a character, given my honestly complete and utter dislike for the character for like the first 70% of the show. Just annoying mascot energy, just, I didn't like it. And I mentioned it last week, and I gotta reiterate it after this episode, because this would have all ended in a very dark ending without this little unicorn. Legitimately good character, biggest 180 of the show for me by far. They definitely baited me because when I see Yuno like struggling to get to Natsuko and you have this like venom like symbiote wrapped around every which limb, I thought we were gonna witness Yuno's death here. The fact that Yuno pulled through, they actually kind of had me on the hope that they might actually end peacefully here, which prior to this episode, I thought at most bittersweet, which I guess could still happen if Natsuko goes back home and her and Luke have to have an emotional goodbye, the love that can never be. But, my biggest thing was if you can't convince the author, that bird, that ugly ass turtle bird, that you can do things other than dark, there's no way this world will allow it because this isn't Natsuko's world. That no matter how much we've changed the plot, it continues to go back on track, even if some things still keep happening differently. But with Luke destroying that crystal and setting in motion the final, say, 20 minutes of the film, if they survive this and convince Luke not to go off the deep end and he recovers from this, it might be enough to change the heart of the OG author, which then puts this world at a state of peace. Sure, there's been sacrifice and casualty, but it won't be as depressing as the OG run. That's, in my opinion, the direction we're going. But yeah, this was Isekai hell. It had more in common with Attack on Titan, when the Titans would be marching through the general streets and they'd just be popping up at the window. Just instead of Titan shifters that look like Saul Goodman, we had these voids that I still think are the coolest design things I've seen all anime season. The glitchy effect to them was absolutely top tier. Of course, if you want to see my full thoughts on these episodes, support my work, we got the Patreon, full and cut live reactions available exclusively over there if you're so interested. Now, something about this episode, I can't tell if it was intentional in terms of like meta commentary or if it's just because this is how it normally goes in anime production. First episode, last handful of episodes, generally they try to have the best production or for key fights, right? Because that's the stuff people will remember. But if you look at episode 11, and I assume when we look at episode 12 next week, it felt like movie quality. The whole show has looked good. I want to get that out of the way. It's looked very good if you ask me. But since the Void invasion, the apocalypse walking down the street, we have reached new levels of, oh my god, okay. We increased the quality and it felt like we are now in the final stretch of a 2-hour movie. And all the time and resources really went into this, and watching the art direction, the atmosphere, the horror, like watching those villagers being like, yeah, we killed Natsuko, we got this, and then there's the cult. Oh my god, Natsuko, she summoned it to end the sideswipe. Just, they were not messing around. But I think my favorite part of the episode was actually how different Luke was with Natsuko's seemingly death, compared to what we've seen and know of the OG film when the princess was supposed to die in her place here. In the OG film, and you could probably argue a lot of it's due to rushing and they essentially probably had to work with 5 to 6 episodes worth of time in a movie format versus a story that would have been better suited for 12 to 24 episodes. Like that was a big criticism of the OG film, was that there wasn't enough time to delve into a lot of details. So Luke just immediately going pissed off, I'm gonna burn it all down, made a lot more sense. Here, they actually let it linger. Her death didn't make him pissed off. Her death broke him. He was alive, but could you call anything behind those eyes life? Like, he was a shell of his former self. And his anger when he finally throws and breaks the crystal is very different, at least from my observation, of the OG film. And that's why I think he can be saved here. In the OG film, his love story with the princess, it felt more plot convenient than anything, at least based on how they talked about it and what they showed. His actual buildup of love for Natsuko feels a lot more genuine. So her coming back to save him here very much could save him from complete and utter darkness. And if that shows the author that there is another way to write this, and a better way, her accepting that, oh, Natsuko's actually a better author than me, I can allow this to happen. gotta swallow your pride, but I think that's what they're trying to build into here. But in order to get to that point, you have to make it look like the most living hell possible. And that's why, as much as I thought Natsuko was going to stop him from throwing the sword and maybe something else would break it, it probably makes the most sense for him to start the apocalypse and then for him to end it with her help. Because in this timeline, he's not alone. Very interesting stuff. Like, this show I knew was going to be a banger from episode 1, but I didn't think it was going to get this intense, this dark, and this thought-provoking, and almost like a meta-commentary on author meets fans' expectations and, you know, the tug-of-war of which one's right. It's such an interesting world. I mean, at this point, though, the fact that they didn't kill Yuno makes me, like, 99.9999% sure that the core crew ain't dying. Justice is maybe the only character that could still potentially die and not have it be completely tragic, but if they kept Yuno alive after teasing that he was going to get ripped to shreds, waking her up, our elven pal is apparently not trying to summon the apocalypse this time around, but something to help Natsuko, so she's probably safe. Luke's gotta live, you would assume, but then again, tragic endings. You know, it's all looking like if there's gonna be sadness to the ending, it's gonna be them saying goodbye and separating between worlds. Probably not because she wants to leave, but because something forces her out of this world after saving it, right? And I think that's how they're gonna get the tearjerker ending. But either way, despite how utterly hopeless this episode felt, the fact that there is that slight light. It's like a pitch black sky, but there's a single star. That single star is about to illuminate the whole damn night sky, and I think that will be the victory. It does, with this episode, have me say, you know how her little drawing utensil, whatever it was called, would always talk to her, be like, hey Natsuko, you have to draw. I'm starting to think that was her internal monologue this whole time, because of how Yuno and her interacted in the theater thing. I'm thinking that was always her, and just it was her inner voice being like, you need to do this. Could also be the fact that Yuno was also with his magical bullshit doing it. I don't know, but the past month of this show, I thought we've reached the top of the mountain. But yeah, I mean, episode 12 would have to be insanely god-awful for me to change my opinion on the show at this point. I mean, I will be completely shooketh if Zenshu isn't in the top 3 new isekai, like brand new isekai of this year, when 2025 is all said and done. You let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Theories if you got any. Do you agree with my thoughts and predictions, or do you got your own? I've seen a lot over the weeks that have been really interesting, so I'd love to hear them. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got JD, Ollie Best, FL Fac, Match, Mate, DanBro77, Karin Stefan Berndal, Achiel, and then this guy's got a bunch of numbers in his name, so I ain't reading that. Thanks so much, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.